Let me pull up one more screen sharing here to introduce my wonderful panelists. So as I mentioned, we have the pleasure to have our divisional principals all united here with us. So Jeff Haney for the lower primary, Ben Hart for upper primary, Connie Kim for middle school, Dave Loveland for high school, and also our associate head of school, Don Drake. And let me stop the sharing now so that we can make sure that we can all see you while we'll have you on the panel. And we'll dive right into the panel discussion with an introduction. And I would like to have all 5 of you please quickly introduce yourself, mention the numbers of years that you are at HKIS, a short intro about your family, and maybe it's just a few ideas on where you have served before. And Don, if you could get us started, please. And we'll just need to unmute you. If I can.
There we go. We all good?
Wonderful. Yes, here.
All right, good. Well, welcome. And to all you new parents, welcome to HKIS and to the PFO. Thank you for creating these opportunities for people to really sort of be oriented to the school and begin what I hope they'll find out to be a fantastic journey. I'm Don Drake. I am the associate head of school, as Karina said. I have been here at HKIS for 6 years. I've served as a director of professional development, and now I work in support of the principals and all the great work they do at each of the divisions. Prior to coming to HKIS, I was a high school principal for 3 years in Korea. I was also a high school principal for 8 years back in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have 4 children, 2 that have graduated from HKIS in the last 4 years, and 2 that just last year graduated from university and are off the payroll. So that's an exciting thing for my wife and I. She also is an instructional coach in the lower and upper primary, and so we've just been thrilled with our experience at HKIS, and I think you'll find it to be an amazing place for your children and for yourselves and what we provide for families. So welcome. And on to the next principal.
Yes, thank you. Dave, if you could please introduce yourself.
Great. Hello, everyone. Dave Loveland, and I'm in my 4th year at HKIS in Hong Kong. And it's really been a great opportunity for me and my family. We've really enjoyed our time here. I have 2 little girls that are in upper primary. One was thrilled today to be back at school. And so that was a lot of fun for her. And then my wife is one of the nurses at the high school as well. Prior to Hong Kong, I worked in Korea at Korea International School as a middle school principal. And then before that, I worked in the US. I'm originally from Oregon and worked in large public high schools back in the US. So again,
It's okay, we're unmuting you again, sorry.
Okay.
It's okay, you're still on time, no worries, we're not cutting you off.
But I saw some of you today at our meeting, and so thanks again for joining our parent coffee today, and hope that your transition has gone well, and we look forward to seeing you on our campus soon.
Great, thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Connie. And no worries, we're not starting to censor anybody out, sorry. You
can always mute me at any time because I know I can go on. This is Connie Kim. I have the honor of serving this community as the middle school principal. This is my 2nd year only. I did come here with my lovely husband of 25 years, and we celebrated our 25th anniversary here in Hong Kong. I have a son who is busy with college applications at the moment, and another son in college, all in the time of COVID, which has been interesting and fun and exciting at the same time. I started my education journey as an English teacher back in San Jose, California, traveled through public and private schools, international schools to include schools in South Korea and now in Hong Kong. I am serving my 2nd principalship here, having served at Chadwick International in South Korea previously. I did want to say a special welcome to our middle school new families. I hope to see you at 5 o'clock at the middle school coffee. I'm sorry, I don't know why I scheduled it back to back like this. And so excuse me if I do have to jump out at 5, but welcome to HKIS.
Yes, great, thank you. The kids are definitely excited also on middle school to be back on campus tomorrow. Ben, if you could please introduce yourself and your family. I'm the treasurer.
Hi everybody. And welcome to HKIS. It's a fabulous school and we feel very fortunate to have our family here. Yeah, my name's Ben Hart. This is my second year at HKIS as the upper primary principal. Prior to that, I was the elementary principal in South Africa at the American International School of Johannesburg. And then before that, I actually worked at HKIS in the lower primary. I was an associate principal for 4 years there and never intended to come back to Hong Kong. We loved the school and we just feel very fortunate that we've ended up in full circle and coming back to HKIS. So look forward to hopefully seeing you all on campus soon.
Great, thank you. And last but not least, Jeff, if you could please introduce yourself, our lower primary principal.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jeff Haney, lower primary principal here. I'm in my third year, but since last January, I think it might be considered my 30th year after COVID. It has been an absolute pleasure being here at Hong Kong International School. I'm here with my wife who teaches R2, and we have 2 children, a daughter who's a senior, so she's off in June, and then our son who's a junior. So back to back, and we're empty nesters. Prior to being here, I was the principal at the American School of Doha in the upper primary. I served as the lower primary associate principal there and a school counselor. We were there for 11 years. Before that, we're at Shanghai American School, where I taught grade 3, teaching back home in Ottawa, Canada. And our very first teaching stint was in Seoul, Korea, where it still holds, you know, right there in my heart. And we are just so thrilled to be here at HKIS, and we welcome all families, but particularly lower primary. Connie, you'll be happy to know that we had back-to-back. We did our parent coffee at 3 o'clock, so.
Yes, we figured that we're asking parents for a Zoom marathon this afternoon, totally.
If our kids can do it, so can the parents.
Yes, but please, you know, don't worry, you can stand up, do exercise behind. Please ask questions in the chat, right? So we'll open up to Q&A, and if there's anything that pops up in your mind while we walk through the panel, please put them into the chat. And I can see also some very young members of the community are joining in. That's fantastic to see. Now, Jeff, I'm going to stay with you because actually, you know, each of the divisions at HKIS focus on a specific aspect, right, when it comes to the development stage of the child. And tell us a little bit more at lower primary. Now we talk about learning through play. So what does that really entail? And what are the benefits versus a traditional approach? And we do need to unmute you. I think maybe both of you are trying to unmute yourself at the same time. Now it works. Cool.
Yeah, so in the lower primary, we really look at how we can make sure that we're engaging students in the learning and making sure that the learning is something that is real and authentic to them. And so we do it in more of a play-based fashion from R1 to grade 2. It looks different in the different grade levels, but we try to make sure that the students are engaged as much as possible, where they are sort of creating the learning and the learning is as meaningful to them in their lives, and they have that choice of how they're going to move forward with that learning. We still follow a set of standards and benchmarks as you would in a traditional classroom, but it's how we engage students by asking them questions, really probing them and getting them to think deeper and having them interact on a regular basis to really construct that learning together as a group. And having that teacher there being as a facilitator as opposed to just handing that learning to them. So the classrooms are set up in a way where students are able to freely move about, to be able to seek out areas that are of interest to them. It doesn't mean that if we're looking at writing and we have a book center that a child who's more of a reluctant writer doesn't approach that, we have ways of getting them in there, but really it's trying to tailor to their choices and really make it that it's going to be engaging and they see themselves as readers, as writers, as mathematicians. And it's all about setting them up for upper primary and having that love of learning. So when we hand them off to Ben Hart and his team, the kids love learning and they can continue doing that within the upper primary.
which is a wonderful tradition over to Ben. So Ben, now when the children come over the bridge to you, so we're looking, right, to develop and support the children to be more inquisitive, right? So what does that mean? How does that translate also into the curriculum? And we do have to unmute Ben. And it's on its way. Here we go.
Well, Jeff, you do a good job at setting students up to love learning. And I was in a third grade class today, and just the joy on their faces of being back in class and with their teacher, and they were sharing some of the poetry that they'd been writing, and just were fully engaged and having fun with listening to what each other had come up with. And I think in the upper primary, we have our curriculum and what we teach, and really focus around, how we teach. And a big part of that is being really explicit and helping teach students how to ask questions, and then finding authentic problems for them to grapple with, and promoting collaboration within the classroom where children are having to wrestle with problems but construct meaning through talking things through, and finding different opinions. And so we use provocations with students as well to have students really think about things that they might not necessarily would have had in front of them without us facilitating some of those learning experiences. And so really trying to find ways to promote curiosity with our students and letting them explore their world, because they're at this age where they're really passionate about their world and the things that are in it. And so it's just such a lovely time to have students of this age who are genuinely interested in learning new things.
Brilliant. And then they move on to middle school. And while I'll ask the question, maybe we can unmute Connie already. So yeah, having a middle schooler at home, it's a very interesting age. And so the social and emotional part and well-being becomes very important. I think that's also where middle school focuses on. Right,
yeah, for sure. You know that all of us here in the middle school are trying to remain experts and really build our knowledge about the developmental traits of middle schoolers aged 11 to 14. We do have a deep understanding of the students, and we recognize that students at this age group learn best when they are healthy, socially and emotionally. And so we are committed to embedding the ethos of social emotional learning into all aspects of what we do in all the classrooms. And I think the SEL mission statement says it all. It does say that we are a relationship-centered community focused on character development of our students, and we promote culture of respect and kindness. And we want to nurture individuals to foster their own awareness of themselves and others, as well as the environment. And so you can see those aspects really coming alive in the learning activities and across all the subjects, not just in the co-curricular courses, but really across all core and co-curricular courses.
Great, thank you very much, Connie. Yeah, so then when the kids then move on to high school, and we can unmute Dave, right? So they should have built up self-confidence, but you further foster self-confidence. You want them to become the leaders, right, of our future, and focus also strongly on academics. So Dave, if you could give us a little bit more perspective, please.
Sure. One of the things we really work with our students on is that we provide many opportunities for them to be leaders within our community and also outside of our school. And we do that through training them through different business partnerships and partnerships with a number of different organizations. It's an important part of who we are. And, in high school, one of the biggest things is we want students to take control and really take ownership of their learning and learn to look forward, past high school and really own the things that they're going to be doing. Academics is important, definitely. Within our school, we have fantastic teachers. Our students work really hard, but along with that is that we have a really rich activities program too. So, which is as important, and we give students the opportunity to find new ways of learning, and at the end, finding different ways of trying something new and being interesting. So it's really something that we focus on. We do support our students along the way, because even though they look like adults, they aren't always adults quite yet, and we really work hard to make sure that they have a great experience.
Great, thank you. Now, given the fact that we're not yet 100% back to school and there are still, several virtual learning elements, I think it might be a good idea to help also our new parents understand what we have learned, over the past, and how does that translate into the curriculum, and maybe some tips and tricks for them to set up their children and their families for success. So, Don, maybe in a nutshell, so what are the main learnings that we have gotten so far, and what is most key, from a school-wide perspective, actually, for the children and families across great age groups to be successful?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the thing we've learned most is that there's nothing replaces the kid being in person and the energy they bring to the classroom, and the excitement that they have day to day. The big piece that, and really a big part of that is the personal connections you make with kids on a day-to-day basis. Connie talked about social emotional. Dave talked about leadership, and how do we get them excited about learning? This has been a growth process for us as an organization as well. When it hit, we were making decisions on the fly. And I think we learned along the way. Jeff Haney, I'd give him a ton of credit, set up a system that became very navigable for families initially. We looked at what was working from the various things all of our principals had done when we first rolled out online learning, and made adjustments along the way. And I think one of the things that was really indicative of the partnership that we have with the community is we also were surveying out and what's working for kids, and what's working for the adults. And really, how were we ensuring ultimately that we were pushing learning forward? I mean, that's ultimately the most important thing, right? Is that we're here to ensure that kids learn and grow and are ready to move on to the next, and are prepared for the next grade level, and are prepared for any number of the challenges that they'll receive in life. I mean, it's very much a microcosm of what we're preparing them for in the world. It's grounded in our mission statement. At the end of the day, while we can talk about all the learning that takes place, fundamentally, I think we're hoping in partnership to just make great people that go out and do make a difference in the world. So the online experience changes that a little bit, but we're learning along the way to just make sure, one, we can get them in school as often as possible, and that two, if we can't, that we are engaging as closely as we can with them to ensure that learning moves forward.
Yeah, thank you, Don. And I'll ask Jeff in a second, but I also just want to take the opportunity to also let the new parents know that the school is also constantly reaching out for feedback. So you will see, I think one of the things is that the online learning that we're in now has evolved also thanks to the feedback that parents have provided. And the school has been very, very reactive with that. Now, Jeff, arguably, one of the privileges of being a lower primary parent is to be very often in the classroom. Now, the classroom is back home for a lot of time. What are some of the tips, particularly for parents of lower primary students, to make this current hybrid scenario most successful? And we'll just need to unmute. Jeff.
Yeah.
It's coming. Yes. Right.
Yeah, and it is tough. We recognize the challenge. The younger you go, the more difficult it is to engage the students. And as we shared with the parents, if any of them are here at 3 o'clock today, was we can't teach them the way that we would teach them as if they were on campus. That's true of any of the grade levels, but I mean, we learn through play. It's very difficult to do that on Zoom. And so really what I encourage parents when they're working with their children at home and they see Zoom going is to really, and I say this from the bottom of my heart with all the deepest respect for parents, back off. Allow your child independence. It's really important. And I know a lot of people think, at 4 and 5, they just don't have the independence. Well, we give them the independence that they can handle at 4 and 5. One of the things we learned in the spring was, parents would sit beside their child and they'd whisper answers in their ear, and we'd know the erase marks on the paper, fixing their spelling and everything. That's not helping the kids. So our number one thing is allow your child to be independent. Let the learning happen between the teacher, the TA, and the child on screen. Parents are there to help out with any tech issues, but that's about it. They're not there to give answers. They're not there to help with spelling or anything like that. It's hard to do. It's that whole let your child sink a little bit but they will become stronger learners for that. So that independence, make sure they have a really good working space set up. So they've got a table, they're not lying in a bed with their iPads all over the place. It's not just distracting for them, but it's distracting for the class. So set up that learning space, have the materials there available for them, where they're able to reach for them when the teacher says, now pull out your writing notebooks. It's right there in a basket. That really has helped the learning with the children. And then the third thing I'd say is, let them have fun online. The teachers do a lot of fun things, interactive games where they're playing and everything. Allow your child to do that. Make sure that they are in the classrooms to be able to do it, in the class Zooms, sorry, to be able to do that. Because the kids really do respond. I think that was the biggest learning we've had as everybody, where people said, they're just not going to learn on Zoom. It's not effective. It actually is. They can learn. It's not the same, but they will do it. So let them have fun with it.
Yeah, thank you. And talking about fun, and I'll hand it over to Ben. I mean, again, from own experience, I can say, like an upper primary grade 3 child now thinks she's the king of the world and manages it all. I mean, how do you channel the kids, and how do you best support the kids in upper primary in this Zoom environment?
Yeah, well, hopefully all of your children are feeling less anxious today than what they might have been feeling a week ago. And I do feel there's a genuine effort from all of our faculty to understand that starting a new school is hard, and starting it online can maybe be even more challenging. And I think that as we reflect on it, hopefully even having your children engage over Zoom in the last week, with now being able to come back on campuses, has hopefully made it a little bit easier for them to make some connections. And I think that that's been the main thing that our teachers have tried to do with new students, is to help them feel connected to other students in the class, but then also help them feel connected to their teacher. Relationships are huge for all children, but particularly in the upper primary. Our students are very connected to their teachers, to their homeroom teachers, but also our specialist teachers. And so that's a big part of what we're trying to do. I know our counsellors over the coming days are going to be running smaller groups with all new students at each grade level. And that's a really nice thing too, because I think the children then get to connect with each other and to talk a little bit about what they're going through and how that's working. There's genuine excitement from upper primary students when they see a new student coming into class, particularly through the halfway through the school year. They love having new students in. And so it was fun today walking through some of the third grade classrooms, because the classes were so excited to share, to introduce these new students. So hopefully your children are feeling like they're finding their place at a big school and a new school.
Great, thank you very much. And Connie, yeah, so how can new parents help their children in this online environment? Because obviously, as a middle school parent, you're always doubtful, are the kids on a Zoom class or on any other social media app or so? I mean, what are some of the tips and advice that you can give to the parents?
Well, I think for our new students, particularly starting a new school in a virtual setting, I would just ask that parents model that sort of behavior socially as well, and just keep calm, and questions will be answered. And so really directing students to the counselors first and foremost. Our new students are, I think, the one adult on campus who knows them really well right now at this stage is really the counselor. So with any needs, we would ask that parents are able to kind of guide their children to connect with the counselors. But we do have, for all of our middle schoolers, what we have termed, and we called it WATCH, which is an acronym that stands for Workspace for the W, which is just make sure there's a designated space, a tidy space, make sure that it's conducive to focus and attention to the home learning environment. A, apps off. So all the applications on all of their devices should be turned off. T stands for tabs closed. So when their browsers are open, just making sure that their tabs are all closed, that the only one and only tab that should be open probably is the tab that has the Schoology open, and that'll direct the other linked tabs. And chats checked stands for C. So making sure that chats should really be only open for the Google chat rooms that are specific to that particular class that they're on at the moment. And lastly, the H stands for hands free. So we would love our students to show their hands to make sure that they are free of any other distractions. And so we created the acronym WATCH, and we've been promoting that and advertising that with all of our students. And I think that applies very well to our new students as they engage with home learning. And we will still have home learning as sort of our anchor in the way we pace and sustain the rhythm of learning. So we would like to encourage our parents to just model being calm, asking right questions and finding the right person. But I know that there's a lot of questions for our new families, but just know that the questions will be answered. Okay?
Great, thank you. I will try the WATCH at home straight away. Dave, moving on then to high school, and I remember from discussions you say, delivering academics online is maybe even potentially more effective or efficient. But again, how do you bring the richness of the curriculum at high school through in this current environment?
Yeah, I think that what's important is that, online classes have been around for a long time, but that's not who we are. So a typical online school is just a set of classes that students work through independently. And for us, we're in a virtual setting and we're in a virtual school. And so the community aspect for us is really, really, really important. And so how do you bring community together in a virtual space? And the great thing has been is that our students have found ways to reconnect with each other. If you're following on Instagram, they have all these different instant challenges going on to try to bring everybody together. And along with that, we still are doing homeroom, and we still are finding ways. We're doing wellness mornings and community gatherings. And so we're still working to bring our community together, even in a virtual space. It's true that for us, you can definitely work through the curriculum, but having students in front of you, it's such a richer experience. And so, for us, we're excited that we're bringing people back, that our kids are coming back on Thursday, even if it is for a half day. And, we'll continue to keep working through our schedules and kind of deal with whatever the Education Bureau sends our way. And we'll continue to make it the best possible as soon as students show up on campus.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And I know, Connie, you have to run in 2 minutes, so don't worry to disconnect at any given point in time. I just wanted to see, if there are any questions, so you can leverage the chat function. You can also, raise your hand and we can unmute you and you can address your question directly to one of the principals. In the meantime, typically what we love to do is like a little fun round of quick fire question and answers. I would just need to have then, Dawn, Dave, Ben, Jeff, and Connie, as long as you're still here, to unmute so that you can really quickly fire in. Oh, she had to hop off, no problem. To unmute, so, quick question, quick fire answer, okay? So Jeff, I'm gonna start with you. If you would describe HKIS in one word, it would be?
Dynamic.
Dynamic. And Ben, for you?
I would say welcoming.
Fantastic. So yeah, Connie already had to leave. Dave?
Community.
Community. And Dawn, HKIS in one word?
Yeah, joyful.
Fantastic. Now I'll stay with you, Dawn. So if there's the one thing you would have loved someone would have told you before moving to Hong Kong, not before to Hong Kong.
Before I answer that, I'm just sort of having a funny moment I'd share with the group. I'm going to age myself, but the power of a mute button brings me back to the Twilight Zone days. If you've ever seen that show back in the 60s, I'm watching this thing happen going, I just want to turn myself on, but I can't. So anyway, but back to the question, sorry, is
yes.
Remind me again, because that was.
So the one thing you would have loved someone would have told you before moving to Hong Kong is?
Boy, I would have to say it's the description of the beauty of it. I was shocked when I first saw HKIS as a campus and thought, oh my gosh, I can remember driving up to them and thinking, I would love to work at this place just based off of where it's located in the world. So, and everything that comes with it.
That's beautiful. What about you, Dave?
I think that, one, bring your hiking shoes for sure. But I also think one thing to think about is that, and I share this with our faculty, is remember the time and the moment when your student or your child was accepted. I mean, I remember when I was offered the position and where you are, and I think it's a good thing to always keep in mind.
Great. Ben, what about you?
Oh, that it gets cold. It's freezing in Hong Kong at the moment, and it just is so hot most of the time. But when it gets cold, it's cold, and then I'm feeling like, well, it's not, you know, -10 cold, but it's cold. So
yeah, but it feels like -20. I agree.
I know.
And what about you, Jeff?
Well, actually, Don took mine and then Ben took my other one. So we go with cold. They took away my Canadian citizenship because of it. I lived in the desert for 11 years and this is cold.
Totally. Oh, we do have actually a question here from a parent, and said, any tips on how can I help my child connect with other kids socially at this time? I don't know if anybody wants to take this question.
Well, I'll talk from the high school perspective, is that one, watch Schoology. The students are all in Schoology all the time, and there's a lot of announcements on there, but it's also a way to connect into the Instagrams and all of the student council and grade level. You know, the student council they're just doing a ton of different challenges and different ways to engage in a lot of different ways.
I would say reach out to your grade level counselors in the upper primary who can, if there's a time that you've got in your day where you need some help facilitating some connections with students, that's a great thing that counselors can help with. And if you were to ask your counselor for that, they would be more than happy to help facilitate something.
Yeah, 4 ways that go with the counselor as well for lower primary. The second one, you can reach out for the homeroom teacher because they'll know sort of the relationships that are happening in class. The third way is just putting something on because we all have class WhatsApps, just putting something on class WhatsApp, anyone available for a play date. And then the last one, which I think is probably the biggest one and now is effective because kids are back on campus, ask your child, who are they connecting with in school? Who would they like to invite over? So there's 4 ways you can do it.
I think it's good to be proactive with it too. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I'll speak for the middle school as well. And Connie talked about the SEL side of things. You know, there's a lot of structures in place, whether it be in the house system or in much like the high school with homerooms and things. Those are really intended to personalize the experience for kids, to help them connect with their peers, to really get a sense of, you know, a lot of things that try and step away from the academic side of things and really, again, find out who the individual kids are. And then, you know, buddy systems, a variety of things happen that are all intended to really take care of that for the kid. And teachers have eyes on that. You know, how are we ensuring that the experience in that transition and being very aware we can support them making connections with others and leading them to that. So a lot of ways that it happens.
Well, thank you very much. That is actually also beautiful closing because we're approaching the hour, and I know we have middle school parents that will hop on to Connie's Zoom right now. But I really wanted to thank, obviously, our panelists and Ron really for joining us here today. I want to say a huge thank you to you parents for connecting with us, and please remember, do reach out. I also want to give a special shout out to the team of the New Parent Connect. So thank you, Seema, our VP of Membership, who is leading all the initiatives, and we have all the divisional principles for sure, but also our divisional reps that joined in, and Saba next to me, our VP of Comms. Thank you very much. With that, yeah, once again, welcome to HKIS. We're thrilled to have you with us, and have a great day.